Peace, the hope of all humankind, the desire of all ages. Despite the noble efforts of great people and a history of politics, treaties, and diplomacy, the ideal of peace remains a distant dream. Some have tried through military might, but can war ever be the instrument of true peace and security? Some seek it through barriers and walls, but peace is more than the absence of violence. Looking back at 60 years of efforts, we must ask, can peace take root, or must we repeat the mistakes of the past? One visionary leader proposes a different approach. Reverend Sun Myung Moon has initiated a global movement for peace by realizing one human family under God. Throughout his 85 years, his personal example and teaching have emphasized the fundamental principles that lead to lasting peace. The first and perhaps most difficult is loving one's enemy, for only love can dissolve the hatred that divides us. A deep personal encounter with Jesus at age 15 led Reverend Moon to preach the Word of God in his homeland of Korea. When the communist government began systematic persecution of religion, he was arrested and tortured, spending 3 years at hard labor in the notorious death camp in Humnam. His life was spared when UN forces entered North Korea in 1950 and liberated the Gulag. Knowing the dangers of atheistic communism, Reverend Moon established a global movement for faith and freedom, educating youth, strengthening the free world's resolve, and reaching beyond the barriers and borders. When the walls came down and the Cold War ended, he invested in the education and development of the former Soviet bloc. Finally, he returned to his homeland and embraced the very man who had sought to destroy him. This bold initiative brought cultural exchange, economic investment, and the warming of North-South relations. Reverend and Mrs. Moon returned to his birthplace for the first time in half a century.
부인과 사면서 선생님의 누나하고 동생 청자가 끊어지게 풍부한 거예요. 어머니 하면서 그렇게 사랑하던 아들 오빠가 왔습니다. 동생이었습니다. 거기서 가지고 가슴이 무너지는 것을 멈추어가지고 눈물을 안 흘리는 것이 얼마나 힘든지. 그러면서 기도한 것이 있어. 내가 여기에서 어머니 아버지를 위로하기 위한 개인 방문이 아닙니다. 이북에 있어서 2천만 동포들을 살리고요. 38선을 키워가지고 만국의 해방의 자유천지를 맞이하죠. 남북에 있는 형들이 같이 모시고 국경을 넘어서는 어떤 가더라도 그 형제들의 우애를 보호하고 전부 다 효자를 보호하고 또 아들, 딸을 사랑하는 부모의 사랑을 보호할 수 있는 그 천지가 안 됐으니 그런 천지가 될 때에 비로소 아들로 방문해가지고 눈물도 흘리고 어머님, 부모님을 위로하기 위해서 돌아올 날까지 기다려주기로 기도했다.
In the United States, he faced similar misunderstanding, persecution, and even imprisonment, which rallied religious and political leaders to his defense. Yet he continued to invest in America, supporting a nationwide outreach for interfaith community service, confronting the racial divide, and educating America's leadership. Reverend Moon's message of interfaith harmony threatens the religiously narrow-minded, some of whom have responded with intolerance. Yet he continues to embrace leaders of all faiths, investing himself and the movement to unite the community of faith.
The prophet is always misunderstood. The masses will not see the vision. And the same thing happened to Martin Luther King and is happening to Reverend Moon.
I see him as someone with a vision and with the means to carry that vision out and the willingness to spend those means. There are other faith traditions that have the means, but they don't have the will. And he's obviously very strong in his commitment to doing this.
Another principle lived and taught by Reverend Moon is living for the sake of others. Ed Farmer, who was imprisoned with him, said,
He truly loves people. I mean, he likes being with them. He never asked for special treatment. He mopped floors, he cleaned tables, and he helped the rest of us when he was finished. The man himself is the way he is all the time. He carries his religion with him, and everyone can feel it.
Reverend and Mrs. Moon's personal example of love and service has inspired millions around the world to lead lives of service to humanity. In addition to missions and service projects in 190 countries, programs include interreligious youth united in community service, global relief work, AIDS education, and service for peace. A third principle central to Reverend Moon's vision is the family as an instrument of peace. In families, we learn to love, trust, and live for others, the virtues that lead to peace. A global movement for the blessing of marriage seeks to renew the ideal of God-centered families as the owners of true love. Ideal families beyond race, culture, and religion are the model for living together in peace, creating one family of humankind. The Family Federation for World Peace and Unification was inaugurated to build a peaceful world, one family at a time. A movement for youth purity promotes lasting love and responsible relationships. The movement has drawn like-minded individuals and leaders from every race and nationality, working to implement Reverend Moon's vision of peace under one God. 50,000 religious and civic leaders, diplomats, current and former heads of state have been appointed as ambassadors for peace, proclaiming the values of true love and family, working for peace and reconciliation. A growing movement of interfaith clergy is standing together with Reverend Moon, sharing his calling to rebuild families, restore communities, and renew the nation and world. This movement for peace has grown to embrace every field of human endeavor, including media institutions such as the Washington Times and UPI. The arts, including the Universal Ballet, the New York City Symphony, and the Little Angels. Education, including the University of Bridgeport, Sun Moon University, and elementary and secondary schools around the world. Sports, recreation, and international competition. After a lifetime's effort to build a culture of peace, Reverend Moon is challenging the United Nations to live up to its mission as a global peacemaker. He proposes an interreligious council to address the cultural and religious dimensions of conflict. Ambassadors for Peace have established such peace councils at every level. He brought thousands of these ambassadors to the Middle East, demonstrating the model of peace through interreligious reconciliation, uniting the children of Abraham in the midst of conflict.
I could see the love that the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, that he has for a Palestinian, is no different than the love that he has for a South or North Korean or any human being for that matter. Therefore, I admire the work of this great movement.
Their efforts have established new dimensions of dialogue and cooperation amongst Jews, Muslims, and Christians alike. Reverend Moon teaches that peace in the world begins from peace in our homes and peace in our hearts. He strives not only for the sake of humanity, but for the liberation of God and the absolute sovereignty of goodness. A homeland where families live in love with God's blessing. It is time for humankind to beat our swords into plowshares. The World Peace King Bridge Tunnel is a proposal to link an international highway system across the Bering Strait between Russia and North America, connecting the world as a single community. A project of such magnitude is possible only if the nations of the world work together, turning the vast sums now invested in the futility of war to the cause of peace and development. The Universal Peace Federation has been launched to promote the reconciliation of enemies, living for the sake of others, and the establishment of God-centered families as the foundation for lasting peace. At the inauguration, Reverend Moon was awarded the Great Medal of Universal Peace and Unity for his achievements as a true parent and king of peace. Now, at age 85, he has initiated a tour of 100 cities worldwide to proclaim the era of the Peace Kingdom. A man of peace, calling all of us to join together and usher in a world of lasting peace.